So I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose with my best. I'm going to have nothing left in the magazine. The magazine's going to be empty. Whether it's using Garrett Gainey, using Chris Veach. Right now, this baseball team, you've only got a couple of guys who consistently get you outs. That's just the way it is. This has been quite the up and down roller coaster for this team all year, but the pitching staff especially. You know, there were stretches where Eli Jones was throwing like a Friday night starter. There were stretches where Eli Jones couldn't get anybody out. You know, Roman Kimball scuffled early in the year, kind of got it going a little bit as the opener, and then started scuffling again. You know, you really haven't had. Dylan Eskew. I mean, here's a guy who threw like an ace against Kentucky, but then couldn't find the strike zone in other games. You just haven't had any consistency. So you got to take a step back and go, okay, who are my consistently best pitchers right now? Not from 2 months ago, but right now. There's not a lot of option there, and I get where Kingston was going with this. I'm going to put Chris Veach out there and see if he can gut me some outs. Because I have more confidence in him to be able to perform in this type of situation than some unproven, untested guys, even though they might be better rested or whatever the case. It was just tough last night. It was. That's a game. You're up 10-7 late, you should win. And I get it. LSU has been scoring, 100 runs a game, and they're, 17-5 in their last 22 or whatever. I get all that. But that's a game that you have a W. And then you get to the defensive issues. Defensively, you move pieces around, then you go from your offensive lineup, and then in the game, you'll switch defensively to your defensive lineup once you've gotten a lead, and you're moving pieces and parts around. I understand that. But, those plays have to be made. I mean, Talmadge Lecroy has got to make that throw. Gavin Casas has at least got to knock that ball down at the very least. And, whenever like first base, for an example, with Casas, I was a guy at a very low level, played the outfield my whole life, but I'm left-handed, so I was always a backup first baseman. And I hated it. I always wanted to play defense out in the green, man. I want to go chase fly balls and, and stuff like that. I didn't want to be in the infield and deal with all that nonsense. I love playing the outfield. Not a huge fan of playing the infield. But I remember whenever I see a ball go through a guy's legs like that, whether it's Gavin Casas, Bill Buckner, whoever, I remember one of my first Little League coaches is like, when we were doing infield practice, get your bleeping glove down on the dirt, boy. It's easier to bring the glove up on a hop than it is to bring the glove down. You don't want the ball going through your legs. Put that glove on the dirt when you're getting set up. And it is true, though. I mean, if you've ever played infield, you get down, you bend, you get the glove down low on the ground. If you get a hop up, you can always bring the glove up. It's very difficult to bring the glove down. And it felt like Gavin Casas was anticipating a hop that never came. And was also taught never anticipate a hop. Never. So I felt bad because, again, that ball shouldn't get through his legs. It wasn't like he wanted it to. Wasn't trying. Wasn't sitting there going, man, if I let a ball go through my legs right now. No. It's just, again, whenever I see that play, I think about one of my early Little League coaches who told me, put that glove on the ground, boy. And, it looked like, watching the replay a few times, it looked like he was anticipating a hop of some sort. Because he wasn't down on the ground with the glove. He was up and then was going down. And look, I know at first base you have to hop off the bag. I mean, or you have to maneuver around where you're at. I understand with runners on base. I get it. You're playing certain ways with runners on base that you might not play normally without. I mean, I get all that. But you got to make that play, and Lecroy's got to make that throw. You bounce the throw. I mean, there were some other defensive faux pas in this game as well that hurt South Carolina, whether it was, Kennedy Jones not being able to just misread that line drive. Look, a line drive off the bat right at you is the most difficult play to make as an outfielder, in my opinion. It's very tough to read it. Plus, that ball is going to have some tail on it one way or the other. And you got to figure it out. And Kennedy Jones is not there for his defense. He's there for his offense, to be honest. And that ball that fell in the triangle for the base hit that someone should have caught. I mean, there were defensive lapses in this game that really hurt South Carolina. But at the end of the day, you got to make those defensive plays, and if you do make those defensive plays late with Lee Croy and Casas, there's a good chance you win the game. But that wasn't the only reason that you lose. I mean, was that on the list? And if you want to put it at the top of the list of the reasons, okay. But again, your pitching situation, you're just stuck, and you got to do the best you can. Offensively, you score 10 runs, you should win. You just flat out should. And again, a Gamecock fan, I get being frustrated, losing a winnable game where now you could be in a situation where you're playing in the semis. Now, I mean, you still have your shot today to play yourself back to get into the conversation of getting in there on Sunday. You've only lost one. But now today, your pitching staff's even more thinner, and you're hoping your offense continues to roll, and maybe you can beat Kentucky and get into the weekend. We'll see. But regardless of all this, your work is done, man. You did what you came to Hoover to do. You've solidified your spot in the NCAA tournament. Everything else is gravy. You were talking to you, Jay and I, yesterday about if you win the SEC tournament, does it get you back in hosting? Jay felt more strongly about it than I did. I said, is there a chance? Sure, depending on what happens around the country. Yeah. But how much stock is truly taken in these conference tournaments now by the committee? Again, people are doing this. Yes, your metrics can move up, your RPI, strength of schedules, quad one wins, all those things, wins versus RPI top 10, all that stuff. Yes, the metrics help you, but how much does the committee take into account? Like, let's look at the top four teams the SEC tournament lost. And they weren't using their big guns when it comes to pitching in ways they would typically use them. I mean, Arkansas didn't use any of their top three starters against South Carolina. Just these top four teams look like they are going to be top 8 seeds. They really don't have a whole lot to play for. So they're just, they're keeping guys fresh. They're getting guys some run just to keep them sharp, but they're not putting together their game plans like they would if they had to go win. So how much stock is taken in conference tournaments in baseball by the committee? That's the question. This committee, that's the question. But again, you win today, you move on to the weekend and see what happens. 3:45, our coverage begins, like I said, here on the game in Myrtle Beach and in Columbia. And before and we'll continue to talk about this, obviously. And again, coming up, let's talk about Cole Messina. Wow. That's all I got to say is, wow. We'll get into Cole Messina. Here's some sound from Mark Kingston and also Cole Messina, matter of fact, coming up in our next segment. Tyler will be back with subs, and for some ungodly reason, he's drinking. Dave, real quick. Dave, participate. Would you ever in your life put pickles in your soft drink?
No.
Your face was better than your answer. Your face was great. We didn't say, would you lick a kitty litter box? We said, would you put pickles in your soda? All right, what would you rather do? Lick a kitty litter box or put pickles in your soda?
Let me think about that for a minute.
You want to think about that? Take a minute and think about that one. Look, I would never put pickles in my Dr. Pepper or my soda or anything. Tyler has done that for some ungodly reason. He loves pickles, almost to a point of disturbing.
Well, I know the kind of pickles he likes, which are really good and hard to find in this town.
What kind?
He likes Wahlburgers pickles.
I got nothing on that. I don't know what the hell a Wahlburger pickle is, but I'll go with
they're
it.
pretty good.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
I went to 4 grocery stores looking for them because they're all like, oh, it's so good. And I'm like,
were they? Was it worth going to 4 grocery stores?
Never found them.
You never found? Have you ever tasted them?
Nope.
But you hear they're great. So we got to do a couple things here. Now we got to get you Wahlburgers pickles.
Exactly.
Are they that rare? I guess.
I went
4
from
grocery
here to
stores.
and I went to every grocery store.
All
Couldn't
right.
find them.
Well, we have to get into this whole conversation now. And Tyler's got pickles in his Dr. Pepper. More important, he's bringing back Firehouse subs. So that's the important thing.
Well, I hope so.
All right, we'll get back in here, hear from Cole Messina and the head coach at South Carolina, Mark Kingston. That is our next segment. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head will be back. Dave's here. Corey's here. We're rolling this sucker up until 3 on the game. 803-875-MENS. That's the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Look, I guess it's interesting to me, and I guess I'll just use that word to be nice and kind, where things as important as a lack of sleep or a lack of life drive or sex drive or personal drive or professional drive, lack of strength, lack of, memory, all these things that are bothering us dudes as we get older, we would actually send a text message to someone to send us some type of whatever it is to make us feel better or to fix this. You wouldn't do this with other medical problems. Wow. I'm having a heart attack. I should text someone to send me some medication. Frank Thomas, send me some medication. No, you wouldn't do that. What you do is go to a professional to find out if you do have low testosterone. And if you do, then get put on a plan that's personalized for you. That's the Men's Clinic of South Carolina at 803-875-MENS. Make the call.
First pitch, drip to left center field. Did he get it all? Oh, yes, he did. Grand slam, Cole Messina. Just destroyed that pitch from Ackenhausen. A no-doubter to left center. And South Carolina takes a 4-run lead here in the third.
Cole Messina absolutely destroyed that pitch. I don't know if that's come down yet. That thing was a blast. Wow. I mean, no doubter, no brainer. What, about mid-80 mile an hour cement mixer hanger right in the middle of the plate. Messina didn't miss it. I mean, what a Hoover for the Gamecock catcher. It's just been unbelievable. He hasn't missed much. He's barreled a lot. There's no doubt. I mean, wow. Another big game yesterday for Messina in the loss to LSU. And he has been just phenomenal. Just phenomenal offensively. Also had the big 2-run double as well that gave South Carolina the lead late in the game. And, Corey, let's get to that cut. Here's Messina talking about that 2-run double, cut 13.
No, I didn't. I mean, I thought Chris was himself. I thought, maybe a few pitches got back to the middle of the plate, but I thought Chris was himself. And, like I told him after the game, nothing to hang his head about. I mean, he's an assassin up there, and just keep doing what he's doing. And
that's about Chris Veach. Messina was asked about Chris Veach as well, because, again, Veach came in, obviously wasn't as sharp as he was 2 days prior when he just slammed the door in that 5+ inning stint. And, again, Veach, tired, not 100%, tried to do what he could to get some outs. This is where you're at in tournament baseball. It just is. But Messina yesterday, 2 for 4, 6 RBIs, the grand slam and the 2-run double. He has been unbelievable in Hoover. Just unbelievable. I mean, Gamecocks, that's enough runs to win. Absolutely. Blake Jackson also very productive, a couple of walks, a couple of knocks. Parker Nolan, 3 RBIs, going 1 for 4. Kennedy Jones had a couple of hits. Dalton Reeves also 2 for 5. Talmadge LeCroy, Gavin Casas threw in a hit as well. 12 hits in the game, 6 walks. I mean, the offense did their job. And pitching-wise, you just tried to piece it together. Guys like Tyler Pitzer and Jake McCoy, Mark Kingston talked about they got some valuable experience yesterday as freshmen. Connor McCreary was really good. Did have 3 walks, gave up 2 runs, neither were earned. Had a couple of strikeouts in 2 2/3 innings. Of course, Chris Veach at the end with inning and a third, giving up 2 earned runs, 3 hits, and took the loss. Hey, Corey, let's get to this cut. Mark Kingston talking about Veach. This will be cut 6. Did Coach Kingston have any hesitation in bringing Veach in? Again, cut 6.
No, he made it very clear that if we got in the right spot, that he felt he had probably 3 to 4 outs in him. He made it very clear, and we were in the right spot. And he's obviously done for the weekend. We had made the decision that if he did pitch today, that would be it for the week. So everything lined up, and you know what? He made some pitches, and they put the ball in play, and it found some holes. So sometimes it just is what it is.
Yeah. By the way, I refuse to use that term, but I get where he's going. That's the reality of the situation. Veach came in. I mean, he's not fully rested, doesn't feel as sharp, but he's going to try to gut you out a few outs at the end there to try to get a W. You're in position. And, with your pitching situation in tournament baseball combined with the defensive issues, especially in that, fateful inning in the 8th, that combined with a very difficult 11-10 loss to LSU. But like I said, you did what you had to come do in Hoover. And now we'll go over the D1 baseball projections and Baseball America and all that stuff on the show. But you're in the dance. And that's all you want. You just want a ticket to get in. And that's the important thing. So South Carolina has achieved that. Any concern over being in the NCAA tournament has been lifted. And look, this team came into the tournament on a 6-game losing streak. And we hear other media, fan base, everyone went from 2 weeks ago going to the Georgia series saying, hey, if you win 2 out of 3 against Georgia, could you be a top 8? To 2 weeks later, after getting swept by Georgia and Tennessee, you're like, are you even going to be in the tournament? I mean, we were openly discussing here, if you lose the first game at Hoover, the play-in game, has any team ever been invited to the NCAA tournament on a 7-game losing streak, despite your metrics, which say you should be in? So now the roller coaster is, back on the downhill, back on the good, with the fact that you got 2 wins in the SEC tournament, and now you are going to be in the dance. And we'll see what happens today against Kentucky. And do you walk out of, Hoover when it's all said and done and the dust clears and all those other ridiculous cliches? Do you improve your seating situation? That remains to be seen, but you feel better now. Despite last night, which again was difficult to deal with, you feel better about pretty much everything moving forward to the NCAA tournament after what you've done in Hoover. All right, let's also get one more cut from Mark Kingston. And we'll get cut 12 about the loss. About the loss does sting, but you got a game today against Kentucky. Again, that's cut 12, Corey.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you watch our guys love to play. There was disappointment in that dugout. It stings, and the only reason it stings is because it matters so much, and they love playing together. So they get a chance to do it again tomorrow. That was our message. If it didn't sting so much, it's because it doesn't mean that much. And look, it was a hell of a game. It's a hell of a week, and it's going to serve us well moving into next weekend. One of these teams was going to be very disappointed coming in here tonight. Today's our turn, but it doesn't do anything for our resolve to continue to get better, continue to support each other, and be ready for the next one.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is you got a game at around 4 o'clock-ish. Because, this one stinks. This one's like, ugh. It's like pickles in your Dr. Pepper. This one's got a bad taste, but you get that taste out of your mouth today. And if you do win, you go to the weekend at the SEC tournament. So it's not over yet. You gotta regroup quick. But sometimes it's good to get right back out there. Sometimes the worst thing is having to wait a few days to do it again because all this stuff just sits in your gut. And again, coverage today, 3:45 in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. Everything gets rolling with Derek and Stewart at the SEC tournament. I will continue hearing from Coach Kingston. Also take a look at the D1 Baseball and Baseball America projections, the NCAA tournament projections. And we're still waiting for our subs, Dave, and to take a look at this hideousness that is pickles in your soda. That's coming. Tyler will be here soon. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Dave, Corey. We're going till 3 on the game. If you're going to redo the lighting, the fixtures in your home, the plumbing, maybe you want a new shower, a new tub, maybe you want all new appliances, redo some of the stuff in your kitchen. You want people to know what they're doing, right? Duh. How about over 70 years of experience? That's what they have at the Nest, 1331 Gadsden in the Vista. And you just call and you say, here's what I'm looking to do. And they'll put you in touch with the right expert, experienced expert, who will talk with you about your wants, your goals, your vision, your dream, and your budget, because your budget's kind of important. And then what they'll do is say, okay, I got an idea what we can do. Come on in. Let's take a look at all the stuff we have to offer. And they'll walk you through it, hold your hand, and set you up with everything you want in your budget. Just call 803-978-2025, 803-978-2025. Talk to the folks at the Nest. Again, 1331 Gadsden in the Vista. Call the experienced folks at the Nest. But we're talking about Carolina baseball. Again, today we get rolling with our Coverage 345 elimination game with Kentucky. You'll hear it here in Columbia and also in our affiliate in Myrtle Beach. All right, so now where does South Carolina stand in the fluid world of tournament projections and RPIs and all that good stuff? Well, South Carolina right now, RPI-wise, lost a spot after the defeat at the hands of LSU last night. South Carolina now 20th in Warren Nolan's RPI and his real-time rankings, and moving people, again, they're moving around. For an example, Vanderbilt, with their win last night, has improved 10 spots in the RPI to 17th. They've leapfrogged South Carolina. So they have gotten a lot of love in the RPI off of what they've done in the tournament. Flip side is Arkansas has fallen 3 spots. They've dropped to number 5 because of they're out. They're out of the tournament. And look, again, I get that this is cold computer metrics. It has nothing to do with how hard you're trying, how hard you're not trying. I still believe right now Kentucky's number 1 RPI team. They've improved 2 spots. Texas A&M fell a spot. They're out of the tournament too. Tennessee's up 1. I still feel like Kentucky, A&M, Tennessee, Arkansas, Georgia. I still feel like they're pretty much solidified in the top 8. Could one maybe shake out? Possibly Georgia. Yeah, maybe, because they're sitting at 6. And human beings are doing this tournament. But those folks are in good shape, obviously. The South Carolina falls to 20. The projections are very interesting. Let's go to the boring one first. Baseball America's projections, which just came out, what did I say, 6 hours ago? Something like that. They have South Carolina in the Raleigh Regional with number 1 seed NC State, number 9 team in the country, according to Baseball America's rankings. South Carolina is the 2 seed. Charleston will be the 3 seed. High Point will be the 4 seed. It's not bad. I mean, NC State's a little bit ahead of you in the RPI. I believe they're 14th. NC State's 14th in the RPI. Their strength of schedule is 3rd in the country. Quad 1-wise, they're 12 and 15. South Carolina's 14 and 19 now. NC State's 17 and 3 against quad 3 and 4. South Carolina's 18 and 2. Record-wise, 35 and 22 compared to NC State's 33 and 20. So you're both 13 games over 500. And again, South Carolina's strength of schedule is 7th in America. So it's not a bad region to be in. I mean, NC State is the 1, but you're not like, wow, no way we can beat those guys. Then you have Charleston and High Point. So that is not a bad region if you're going to be a 2 seed. D1 baseball is where it's juicy. South Carolina, a 2 seed as well in the D1 baseball projections. If you haven't heard, D1 baseball has them in the Clemson region. It'd be Clemson, South Carolina, College of Charleston, and Penn. Yes. You get Chad Holbrook, Clemson, and the Gamecocks. That would be fun. Again, lots of good storylines there. And despite the fact that that would be fun, if you're looking at navigating yourself to the supers, you probably like the Baseball America better. Even though the fan in you goes, yeah, man, would it be great to knock off College of Charleston and beat Clemson in their own regional and go to the supers. Yeah. That fan passion would like that one. But if you're thinking, trying to think the best way to get to the super regional, Tyler Head,
yes.
You like that Raleigh region.
Yes, the heartbreak of losing that one would probably sting a little bit less if it goes the other way. Mm-hmm. Would you love to bounce your rival as well as your former head coach on a regional at the same time? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But the potential for heartbreak on that one is just a little too risky in a lot of people's minds, especially, we talked about this earlier. There were a lot of people that kind of expected Michael Braswell to do something yesterday just because he's a former Gamecock. So now you're going up against not only your in-state rival, but a former head coach who probably has a little bit of an axe to grind with this place that would love nothing more than to see your season come to an end.
That like last night, and I haven't gotten to this yet. I was saving it until you finally showed up because I'm always on time.
I was going to say, who started the show without me? Is Dave just in here talking
Dave was
about
just
Larkin
talking.
Poe?
Dave was talking about guitars. He was one of the at guitars and honey buns. So I saved the Michael Braswell for when you popped in, but yeah, that was so in the psyche of South Carolina fans.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you look at what Jermaine Cousinard did in the NCAA tournament, had the game of his life, former Gamecock. Then you look at, what happened. Michael Braswell was hitless, by the way. It wasn't like he was 3 for 4, but the one hit he gets is the go-ahead run.
He came in on a 9-game hitting streak. To the point of that 9th inning, he had no hits on the day. I think he'd been walked one time, but no hits on the game.
He hadn't really affected the game.
Hadn't really affected the game until the 9th inning.
I know. And now it was Elijah and other people's, but Elijah's tweet after the game was, the way this is going, Juice Wells is going to go for like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns.
I was gonna say it's if you're into betting, maybe on Prize Picks, might want to take his over.
Just it's so South Carolina. And the fan base, God love the fan base. They were just, this is pretty much what happens to us.
Kind of what happens.
It's like, oh, jeez.
That and the backup quarterback thing.
Yes, that also. All right, real quick, Corey, let's grab a cut because look, it's not the only reason you lost, but it contributed greatly to why you lost. The 4 errors. Here's Coach Kingston, cut A, Corey, talking about the defensive issues in last night's loss to LSU.
I mean, that was clearly difference in the game. They made no errors. We made 4. Clearly, that was the difference in the game. And the ball to Gavin, is almost like a cue ball. He did everything he could to try to get down and get in front of it. And it snuck through him. And look, it was a tough play. It was unfortunate. Nothing you can do about it now.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough play. No one's saying it wasn't. But again, as we discussed. Whenever I see that play, I think of my little league coach. Put your glove in the dirt. Put your glove in the dirt. And it's easier to come up than it is to go down. And if you play that way, it's almost impossible for the ball to go between your legs. You even brought up, you're also taught to use that knee to go down and block the ball.
Just crouch. If it hits you in the chest, hits you in the face, at least you're keeping it in front of you.
Yep, and you're going to save a run.
Yeah, and again, when you look at shifting things around defensively for the purposes of helping your offense, that's one of those scenarios where it does kind of come back to bite you a little bit.
Because you got guys moving everywhere. You got a guy playing third, and now he goes to first. Another guy's playing first, goes back in the outfield. The shortstop goes to third. Then you bring in your shortstop, who's the defensive shortstop, and all that stuff. And not only Costas, but again, Lee Croy's got to be able to make that throw.
Right.
And there were some other defensive things that happened that didn't result in errors, but still there were defensive lapses in the game. And it does, not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons you lost. There's no doubt.
Yep.
We'll hear more from Coach Kingston as we roll through, but now we want to get to the important thing. Okay, Tyler, 2 things here.
Yes.
A, most importantly, the subs are here.
They're here.
You're the man.
In fact, there are so many in your box, I couldn't close it properly. And Josh made yours special, but you have to figure out how special it is.
Yeah, I'm really scared.
That's up to you.
I'm really scared. Because the last time, we can't speak of it on the radio.
We can't. And I asked if he wanted to do that this time. He said, no, you're going to have to figure it out yourself.
All right, and the second thing.
Yes.
All right, so we talked yesterday about the pickles and the Dr. Pepper. You were going to go to Sonic and do that, but obviously there's time constraints.
There's a Dr. Pepper and pickles at Firehouse Subs. Why not do it there?
All right, so I put the picture on Facebook. I'm going to get it out on Twitter as well, and maybe Instagram.
Yep.
The picture of this vileness.
Yep.
All right, so how does it taste? Because you love pickles and you love Dr.
I do.
Pepper.
Here's the thing. It's an evolving taste, right? So when you...
No, stop. When someone says an evolving taste.
No, look, I'm drinking it. It's good.
Okay,
and here's the thing. Every time you go back to it, it tastes a little bit different. So you initially put the pickle in there. Doesn't really change it a whole lot. You have a little tinge of pickle in there, but it's still more pepper than pickle. As I'm driving over here, it's becoming more pickle than Dr. Pepper. So I haven't taken a sip in about 5-6 minutes. In the next break, I'm going to check it again. It's probably going to be dominated by the pickle now.
Now, is that a good thing, though, Is it evolving
look,
in a good way?
I'm not complaining about it. It still tastes good to me.
Because you're a pickle freak.
It's losing, like, it's overpowering the pepperiness. Like, when you drink a Dr. Pepper, it kind of gives you that, like, the pepperiness in your throat. It's more pickle now than pepper. It's interesting. I'll say that much.
And what's this? What's this? Wahlburger? What are these pickles you like?
Oh, yeah.
What are they called?
Well, it's not just those kind. You can buy, like, the gourmet pickles at the grocery store that they sell with, like, the lunch meats, not just, like, the regular jar of pickles that come on the shelf. You got to pay a little bit for them, but they're worth it.
What are they called?
They have Wahlburgers. There's also like Grillos. There's a lot of like different brands, but it's essentially like, you know, when you go to a deli and you get like a really good sandwich that has really good pickles on it, those type of pickles.
I didn't know there was I did not know there was so much deep dive pickle knowledge.
There's a distinct difference between normal pickles and gourmet pickles.
Okay, so there is a difference between just
Big difference.
like, what is it, like Vlasic?
Yeah,
and a gourmet pickle.
The Vlasic, the Mount Olive, those are your just baseline normal pickles. Perfectly fine. But there's some, like, and these, the Wahlburgers, they have like the dill in there and there's a little bit more salt to them. Like, it's a whole nother pickle experience.
Now, do you carry pickles with you to take to the restaurant like you do ketchup?
That is not quite as sanitary as the ketchup thing. A pickle would spoil if not properly stored. So, no. But I'm also not as picky when it comes to pickles
As you are ketchup.
as I'm like ketchup and Heinz are nothing for me. Like, I'll eat different types of pickles.
This is good. The longer we do this, you're a very particular dude, my
I used to put pickles on grilled cheese sandwiches. If you've never tried that before,
That's massively vile. All right, thank God we're going to a break. All right, Firehouse Subtext, the hour, 803-404-6100 is next. Halftime show. A cast of many here on the game. Time to get our Firehouse subtext the hour at 803-404-6100 here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford and Tyler Head and Corey's here and David Adair and Elijah's hanging out and engineers tell me engineering stuff. I don't understand anything he's telling me, but I nod my head and go, okay, that's great. Yeah, He walks away. I'm like, I have no idea what the heck you just said. All right,
that's why he gets paid a lot more than us.
Yeah, because when he just starts spewing all that stuff, I'm just like, wah, 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 wah. It's a teacher from Peanuts. It really is.
Wah, 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 wah,
Wah, wah, wah, wah, wah. I'm just like, so everything's okay? We're on the air?
Tell me if I need to worry.
Good. All right, what we got there on the Firehouse sub text the app?
A lot of people put off by the pickles and the Dr. Pepper. I'm not going to lie.
Really?
Yeah, I get it. It's not for everyone.
Really? A lot of negativity.
And, pickles are such a polarizing thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought Wes was going to puke when I was telling him what I was doing. Like, Chris likes pickles, but he wasn't like, I'm not putting a pickle in Dr. Pepper type of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get it. People are divisive on this.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing, though. Well, they're also, I'll tell you, with Wes and Chris, like, what was it the other day we were talking about? Oh, yeah. I don't like, what's a ranch? I don't like ranch dressing.
Okay, all right.
It's not my bag.
Okay.
It just isn't. I
That's
don't
fair.
like it. But I like mayonnaise.
Okay, yeah.
But they looked at me like I got three heads. You're not a mayonnaise guy
I'm
at
not
all.
a mayonnaise guy.
I like mayonnaise. I don't like ranch dressing, but I like mayonnaise. And they looked at me like I just said something bad about their family.
Yeah.
Wes was like horrified that first of all, I didn't like ranch dressing, and two, but I did like mayonnaise. So these guys have their own like rules of food. So
A little bit. Now, I'll say this, like the ranch dressing thing, some people overdo it. Some people put ranch on too many things to where it's like a personality trait.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think people overdo ranch sometimes. I don't have a problem with it. I used to not like it. Now I'll eat it on certain type of things, including my turkey bacon ranch at Firehouse Subs, which is my favorite sandwich. But I'm not dipping my pizza in it. You know what I mean?
Well, see, that's where Clark went with me. He's like, about dipping pizza in ranch. I'm like, that's vile.
Yeah, I
Because I don't like
that.
He goes, no. He told me about a certain pizza place up near where we were, I guess, what was that? Blythewood at the Firehouse?
Yeah.
There's a pizza place near there. He says, the best ranch dressing ever. Go there, get some pizza, and just try it. He goes, you'll love it. I'm like,
Okay.
I will do that because, I like Chris. I like Chris Clark a ton, so I will try it. But those guys looked at me when I said I didn't like ranch dressing. It was like I didn't cuss you guys.
If you gave me options of what I'm going to dip my pizza in, like garlic butter's number one. Mm-hmm. Buffalo's probably number two. Mm-hmm. And then barbecue's actually pretty good on pizza. I don't know if you ever tried that.
In?
What's that?
My mouth.
Your mouth? Okay. That's fair.
Pizza's so good, I don't need to dip pizza in anything.
You tried garlic butter?
Well, I love garlic butter in general. I could drink garlic.
Oh, on pizza, it's next
I've
level.
never gone there. I mean, I know they give it to you. Like, was it Papa John's puts the garlic?
Don't throw it away.
There?
Give it a shot.
All right,
Change your life.
All right. So you have been totally like smacked around on the fire.
I have. And you know what? I understand.
Did anyone go your way?
Not from what I've seen so far. And look, I'm not trying to convert people over to pickle Dr. Pepper. I'm not going to force it down your throat. If you don't believe in it, that's okay.
If you don't believe in it. If you're not a believer.
I will say, at last check in that break, the pickle has overtaken the Dr. Pepper in the drink.
Because you tried it, and I was gonna talk to you about it, but again, our engineer was talking to me about towers and.
I will be intrigued when I finish the liquid what the pickle is going to taste like.
Now, you're going to eat the pickles
I'm gonna eat
at
the
the
pickle.
end.
That I will eat it on air. In fact,
okay.
Once I get down to the end of the drink, I will eat it on air.
We're going to get that on video. By the way. We got the live stream.
Game TV, Shepherd's
Game
Glass,
TV.
Integrated Media. Got it set up. I will bring it in here.
We will also
I will eat the
record
pickle
this
at the end of it.
Yes, that's sort of like when you finish the tequila, you eat the worm.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Then you start seeing things.
I did that once. Did not end well.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody has a story of why they don't do it anymore.
Yeah, you typically do it. Well, I've never met anyone that's done this. Said this to me. Yeah, man, I drank the tequila, ate the worm, and I've done that 3 or 4 times. No,
Yeah, one and done.
did it once.
Learned your lesson.
That was it. Absolutely. All right. We will obviously football in the 1 o'clock hour. But before we leave, what happened last night? Look, I get it. You should have won the game.
Uh-huh.
You have a 3-run lead late. You should win that game.
Sure.
And things happened, and you don't get a W. And I get frustration from a fan base when you were this close to
Yeah.
the semifinals.
Yeah.
And a day off, you could have reset your pitching, and then and you're 2 wins away from winning the SEC tournament.
Yes. I'm not one of these people that immediately jumps on the doom and gloom train because you lost by 1 run to a team that had been blanking teams all week long.
Well, because they did the Kentucky. They boat raced Kentucky the other day.
They beat Georgia by 9 runs.
Yeah, I mean, they've been playing really well. You had that game won. You didn't finish the deal. And you live to fight today, and if you could beat Kentucky, you get to the weekend.
Right.
Now, again, your pitching staff is about done, but you would get to the weekend and then figure it out. And coming into this tournament with a 6-game losing streak,
Oof.
you feel much
maybe
better.
a 7-game losing
Yeah,
streak.
you feel much better right now.
That's right.
I will come back in here, football in the 1 o'clock hour on the halftime show on the game. Halftime show with Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the game. Corey's punching our buttons and steering the ship. And Captain Dave's trying to steal my sub while we're in here talking. I don't trust him. Dave, food?
I brought you guys both subs.
Oh, no, he got nothing. All right, so football, 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. And we'll get to Shane Beamer, some cuts from Beamer and the Welcome Home Myrtle Beach. Also, let's go back with ceiling and floor from Andy Staples on 3. Who do you want to go to next?
We got a lot of them.
Yes, that narrows it down, Tyler. We have a lot of them. We've done Kentucky.
Yes.
We did Tennessee, right? Did we do Tennessee?
I can't remember if we did Tennessee or not.
We should have probably wrote this down. I think we did do Tennessee because we talked. Remember, they were projecting possibly a playoff team, and I was
That's
like,
right.
not so fast. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll get another one this hour. The ceiling and floor, which I think is very interesting, by the way. But first, we'll focus on obviously the iconic, unbelievable, charismatic shift that we are about to see in the world of college athletics.
We got those last 2 signatures they were waiting on yesterday.
Well, the Big 12 runs the show. I mean, the Pac-12 runs the show.
Yeah, for, another, like 40 days?
Wouldn't you be the last one, though, if you're the Pac-12?
Oh, well, I mean, what have you got to lose?
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be like you got something.
June the 30th at 11:59 p.m. The absolute last minute.
Uh-huh.
Go out with blaze of glory.
I would. I'd go out. I got one left, right?
That's it.
I got one left.
I'm pretty sure a guy cleaning coughs hanging out the unemployment office right now.
Wow. There's a guy. No, like he's going to get a high-paying 7-figure job somewhere else because all these guys fall forward, right?
That's the frustrating part about this is like you failed so terribly at your job. You should not be anywhere near any kind of high dollar figure career at this point.
No.
And yet he's going to fall into something close to, if not just as lucrative.
He's absolutely going to fall forward. These guys do. These guys at that certain level, someone's going to give them their gig, right? Because whether they networked correctly or, he finds a way to work himself into another 7-figure or this. Well, that really wasn't my expertise. I'm more of this guy.
Yeah.
That's where it'll go, and he'll get another 7-figure gig, make a lot of money, screw up something else probably. But the thing that's interesting about Kliavkoff is he just didn't fail. He's going to be the guy. Now, it's not only him, Larry Scott, the presidents in the Pac-12. It's not just Kliavkoff, but he was the last guy on the ship, right?
Larry Scott did not lay good foundation for what he was taking over. The TV deal was going to be hard to figure out. Now, yes, he did overvalue that TV deal grossly, as well as the schools within the conference. But he was put into a tough spot, and he was not smart enough to get them out of it.
Yeah, I mean, he was a poor hire, too. I mean, he just, look, we see our guy in the Big 12, seems like a really good hire. He was an outside-the-box hire, right?
Yeah, and he's, does he have them at the level of the SEC and the Big Ten? He doesn't, but he has them in a respectable spot. They're doing better than the ACC right now.
I'll say this right now. Our boy Yorkman, the commissioner of the Big 12, I think, because we see what's going on in the ACC, the Big 12 right now, despite not having a wow brand in their conference, are sitting in the 3-hole.
Pretty much.
And Yorkman has helped, drive that. The thing with Kliavkoff, again, when you hire outside the box, I've always thought it's either going to end really well or really badly, right?
The thing about Yormark, because he came from MLB, he'd also worked with NASCAR before, his expertise was TV deals. Mm-hmm. And that is where most of the money in college sports comes from, is TV deals. Like, that is the absolute right person to hire if you're going to go outside the box, because he knows what to do.
And
Kliavkoff wasn't that guy.
No, not at all. And so Kliavkoff, to be fair, if we're talking about the Pac-12 as the Titanic, yes, Larry Scott first hit the iceberg.
And then scurried on out. And said,
along with
good luck.
The presidents tried to steer it as well and just made it worse.
Yep.
But then Kliavkoff was the last guy with his hand on the wheel when it went down.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and you think about this for a minute. to go to the blame of the Pac-12 presidents and the arrogance and the pompous snootiness of some of the members of that conference, you could have had Texas and Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You had Texas and Oklahoma. You're still a conference.
Yep. 1000%.
Because your TV deal would have been totally different.
Totally.
And you totally fumbled because you didn't want to take, oh, God, we're not taking Oklahoma State. Don't you know we're Stanford? We're Cal. Oh, God, we're not doing that.
Where's Stanford and Cal now, by
in
the
the
way?
ACC.
Wrong coast.
Right, and then out of the Power Four that are left, what's the one you don't want to be in right now?
The ACC.
Nice work. Nice work. So you really could. That's another thing where we are constantly going to beat up Larry Scott and George Kliavkoff, which they deserve it.
Sure.
But the arrogance and pompousness of members of the Pac-12 that prevented understanding the room.
Yes.
Also led to this demise.
And this is where it kind of comes back to Kliavkoff. And look, the universities aren't exempt from this because they have played just as big a role as Kliavkoff did. Now, did he lead them to thinking maybe they were worth more than they actually were? Sure. But when you're hard-headed and saying, no, we won't accept anything less than $50 million a year per school. But keep in mind, the ACC gets about 30-31. Big 12 right around that same number. It's the SEC and the Big 10 that are in the 50s and 60s before their prior TV deal. So, and I get it. This was a great year for the Pac-12. Obviously, you had a team in the college football playoff national championship game. You know, you had Oregon and all those other teams that had really good seasons. But the value of the conference as a whole pales in comparison to the top dogs. And why you think you deserve to be in the same conversation with them, that's on you. Right.
And the other part of it, before we move on from this little exit ramp we took, with Larry Scott, okay, you didn't want ESPN in the beginning. You wanted to distribute and handle your network yourself.
Right.
Well, once you realized it was a miserable failure and ESPN came back to you a second time and said, look, dude, let's dig you out of this and we'll take over this thing and blah, 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 and here's the financials. And you double down on stupid.
Never say no to your mulligan.
Right.
When it comes back around, there's a reason that it's come back around. You should probably take it.
You own it and you fix it.
Yes.
And so that's where, again, Larry Scott takes his blame. So circling back to where we're at, I thought some of these things are very interesting, and Ross Dellinger has done a phenomenal breakdown of this in 50 different ways.
Dude probably qualifies as a lawyer at this point.
Absolutely. The one thing I think is interesting, and I haven't had a chance to go through this entire Q&A yet, is Ross Dellinger talked with Steve Berman, one of the country's leading class action attorneys who's been part of this gigantic lawsuit, House versus the NCAA, along with Jeffrey Kessler. Berman thinks this will now keep the NCAA out of court.
Probably.
And again, this guy's a lawyer. I'm not. And I always think this way, well, where there's a lawsuit, there's a way, right? But this does open the door to get what you eventually need, which is an agreement with all parties, right?
It does. And I think this is kind of the collective way of saying, hey, we get it. What we were doing was, and our guy Ronnie corrected us on this yesterday, not illegal against the law. Or not against the law,
it's not
illegal.
Criminal.
It's not criminal.
It's illegal.
It is illegal.
And there's a difference.
And there is a difference there, so we will use that distinction going forward. What they were doing was not legal within the laws of antitrust. And now, and obviously they're admitting it at this point, and that's what this settlement is saying, like, hey, we screwed up. We screwed up for a long time. We're trying to now go into this new era, which is going to allow players to become employees and all that kind of stuff, and we're going to pay this $2.7 million over a period of 10 years for trying to right those wrongs that we did for so long.
And I think their hope is by, having this salary cap for the universities and still having the NIL opportunities there, what they're going to call legit NIL opportunities. Good luck policing. Have fun.
Yeah.
With all that, though, and all this is so athlete-friendly and athlete-centric that they're going to keep themselves out of court.
Right.
Now, until you have a true agreement with all parties involved, there's always an opportunity to end up in court.
Of course.
But this does wipe out a lot of the problems, like the antitrust. This lawsuit would have killed the NCAA. Don't get me wrong; a lot of people would have liked that. But now you're paying a ton of dough to an interesting year range of athletes.
Yeah, that seems like only the starting point here.
Yeah. But you feel like this is the start of you not getting your teeth kicked in court anymore.
Well, and I think it was important that they realized they were in a lose-lose situation, that they agreed to settle because they decided to fight this thing to the end. We know they wouldn't have won, and then you're going to be paying upwards of $4 billion in these settlements, which, again, you're already stretching universities and the NCAA itself pretty thin with $2.7 billion. You add on another at least 1.3, you're going under at that point.
Yeah, so you had to do this, and it was fun. It was interesting too with our lawyer buddy Ronnie yesterday saying that this has gone way overboard of what originally the Supreme Court's decision was. So how does this doesn't get course corrected backwards?
No, it doesn't.
And Ronnie made a great point that, and we see this all the time. Very smart, opportunistic people in the legal world went, "Ooh, I got an idea. Well, you broke antitrust laws for decades, so you have, held back a lot of athletes for a long time from cashing in on their NIL. It's time for a class action lawsuit."
Yes.
And that's where it's at. And the lawyers are going to make the most money. These athletes will get a little something.
What's undefeated? Billable hours.
Yes. But the lawyers make out better than the athletes, no doubt. But what you've done here is now you've opened this door that you can't shut again, and you've moved forward with the compensation of these athletes, and now you're doing it in a capped situation from university to university. Look, it's very interesting, too, that, like, Ohio State generates a ton more revenue than, like, Iowa State.
I think Ohio State's actually number one in revenue generated.
Yeah. So $20 million or $22 million compared to what they generate, that's like that's in the cup holder of their car.
No,
right?
without a doubt. And we can easily rattle off probably 15 to 20 schools that we know without a doubt are going to be at that limit of $22 million. Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, teams like that, Southern Cal. It's those teams that are kind of iffy. And it's like, well, I think they can afford that, but I don't know for sure.
Right, because that's going to be the thing. To me, again, it's going to be baseball. Big market teams, medium market teams, small market teams.
Right.
And that's where this is going to go. It's going to be big market programs, medium market programs, small market programs. What's going to be interesting is in these medium market programs, are you going to spend up to the level? Mm-hmm. Are you going to spend up to the level to do everything you can to put the best product on the fields in your programs? Or are you going to be looking more at the budget balance toward what you're doing with the money you're giving out? Are you not going to reach that level? And then how's your fan base feel when these other schools are hitting the 20 to 22 million and you're sitting at 13 or 14 or 12 or whatever?
Because you're essentially admitting, well, we're not going to compete. Because here's the thing. If you don't reach that cap, that means you can't pay your athletes what an Ohio State, what an Alabama, what a Tennessee does. And that means, guess what? Bye-bye 5 stars, because they're not going to come to your school when they know they're guaranteed to make more money going somewhere else.
Right. They're not going to be playing for your tradition and your jersey and your history and all that. They're going to go, how much can you give me?
How many guys are playing for the front of the jersey anyway now?
Exactly.
No matter what people want to believe.
Well, that's because we like to think they love the university like we do.
Sure.
What's going to come down to also is, okay, if you're not spending all that money and you're not winning, that's where you really, it's like baseball.
Yeah.
If you're not spending money and your product stinks, the first thing your fan base says is, why aren't you spending money?
Exactly.
So we'll see where it goes. All right, we'll come back in here, get some Shane Beamer welcome home in Myrtle Beach, and also grab one of our ceiling floors from Andy Staples on 3 podcast. It's football here in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. It's Terry Ford and Tyler Head and their buddy Corey punching the buttons up until 3 here on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Corey Parson hanging out with us, making sure that we know what in God's name we're doing. So we got that rolling until 3 here on the Game Halftime show. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Our ceiling floor. We're trying to hit everybody in the SEC. Excellent work again by Andy Staples. And help me.
Cody Belair.
Yeah, thank you.
The recruiting guy for On3.
Excellent stuff. They do the ceiling and floor for every team in the SEC. And we're going to Ole Miss now. So let's fire that up. And here is Andy and Cody with their thoughts on Lane Kiffin and the Rebels.
Expectations are as high in Oxford as they have ever been.
Absolutely.
This is a team that won 11 games last year, and we are expecting them to probably make the playoff. And that's why, as their ceiling, I'm saying not only make the playoff, but win a playoff game or two. That is, I'm not ready to go national title as their ceiling, but
Sure.
I definitely feel like they can get into the playoff, win some games, maybe if you can win some games, and maybe you can win them all. But
Right.
this is the rare occasion where somebody, it feels like, did improve their line of scrimmage dramatically in the transfer portal.
Yes.
And nobody does that.
You know, Lane has become the king of the portal.
Oh, 1,000%.
And, you know, like an example, Jackson Dart, his starting quarterback through the portal. Now, there are people who love Jackson Dart more than I do,
Yeah.
to be quite honest. But, I mean, he's pretty good. I don't think he's great. There are people who think he's wow. I think he's pretty good. I don't think he's like on the level of, if you go to the top level of SEC quarterbacks like last year.
Sure.
I don't think Jackson Dart belongs in that conversation, but I think he's good.
I think the experience factor goes a long way for him this year, where I think he's going to be in that conversation as, you know, maybe in the top 3 to 4 quarterbacks in the SEC this year. That doesn't mean he's going to go off and be drafted first overall or something like that. But I think the fact that he's been around the conference for a while is going to have a lot of weapons around him. We'll get to those in a moment. I think that's going to go a long way in what his potential is for this season.
Yeah, and there are weapons everywhere, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, you name it.
Well, we know one very well.
Yes, we do. You know who else they picked up in the portal, if I'm not mistaken? Rashad Amos, who was at South Carolina a few years ago, went off to the MAC, put up some big numbers, and now is back in the SEC, which is interesting. Because your first thought is, well, why do you leave South Carolina?
Right. Well,
running back room was, coming out of a year where just wasn't getting any run, wanted to go see, and yeah, he dropped down to the mid-major and put up big numbers.
I was going to say, if only he had known what was going to happen about 2 years down the line, he probably would have stuck around.
Yeah, so, talking about improving the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, look, the defense really needs, and we've been saying this for years with Ole Miss.
Sure.
Defensively, you got to get better. And last year, it was better than it's been, but it's still not good enough to compete. If you want to be a big dog in this conference, we talk about this all the time in regards to South Carolina's line of scrimmage.
Sure.
You got to win up front. And, Ole Miss offensive line-wise, they've tried to improve through the portal. But the biggest problem was defensively, they just couldn't hang with the big dogs.
No, most of their numbers last season were pretty middle of the road. Looking right here, they were 9th stopping the run in the SEC last year, giving up over 150 yards a game, which, again, when you talk about teams that, are at the top of the league, you don't give up nearly that many yards if you want to be competitive. And they went out there and addressed that in the transfer portal as well. You bring in Walter Nolan, who is by far one of the, if not the most sought-after defensive guys in the portal this past year. And I got Prince Liu from Florida coming off the edge to really kind of anchor, as you heard Andy Staples mention there, the trenches on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, Nolan's interesting because your first thought is, okay, this guy's been a bust. No, has he been all world like people predicted he was going to be? No, but I was looking at some numbers yesterday. His per snap production is really good. Now, there's a reason that he wasn't getting more snaps, and that's because he couldn't clearly beat out the other guys on that defensive front at A&M. But when he was in the game, he was effective.
Right.
So he's going to go to Ole Miss. Does that mean more snaps? Is he going to start now? My guess is that Warren Nolan did not show up without some kind of nod.
I would say it's probably heavily implied, in addition to a very nice NIL deal, which is why a lot of these guys are at Ole Miss because
Growth Collective, baby.
Lane went out there and said, "Listen, look into my dreamy eyes.
That's right.
We need some money." And we're like, "Okay, whatever you want,
Whatever
Lane."
you need, Lane. We love your hair. It's your wow, Lane.
Your dog is great. I follow him on Twitter.
But Lane touched my hand. I'm never going to wash it again. So the money is there for all the NIL situation at Oxford has taken things to the next level.
Right.
But so Nolan's going to probably start and get more snaps. We'll see how he plays as a starter.
Yep.
Again, our boy Princely U, I mean, we see what he can do when he's engaged and locked in and interested. He can be a terror off the edge.
His problem was he was playing on a defense that didn't really have much around him. Like, he was just kind of one of the only guys on that defense worth anything. And you saw that with the production, the numbers that Florida defense put up a season ago. So now being on a defense surrounded by a little bit more talent, you feel like out there in Ole Miss, what can he do?
And then obviously Juice Wells, we just talked about that. I mean, Juice Wells is going to be that's going to make this game so polarizing.
Oh man,
this fall, right?
You don't see this as often in football, but like when you have somebody that transfers out in like basketball, when they go to that other venue, anytime they touch the ball, the boos rain down. Football's a little different, but I feel like anytime he is in motion, you're just going to get a chorus of 70, 80,000 people booing Juice Wells. And I get it. And again, if he hadn't have heavily implied he was coming back to South Carolina and then 10 days later said, actually, I'm going to Ole Miss, I don't think the feelings would have been hurt as bad. Yes, you would have hated losing what was once your top receiver, but the fact that he kind of pulled the sleight of hand on you there.
Well, and then said what he said.
Yeah.
About wanting to play for a winning program or whatever.
Which, again, he got in the same boat as Braswell, that clip that people keep bringing up. Yeah. That's not what he probably meant to say, but that's the clip that's going to get replayed over and over again.
Because it was captured. Like the bigger part of the conversation, you hear more, but that little clip that was captured is, what'd you say?
Exactly.
Because again, the pushback is, well, Bub, when you were healthy the year before, this was a winning team. 8 W's, take out 2 top 10 teams, go to a Gator Bowl. Because you were hurt, to what extent, to whatever, and could you have played and you didn't play, were you protecting yourself and blah, 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 blah. Maybe that's one of the reasons why this team went 5-7.
Sure.
All right, schedule for Ole Miss. You're starting off with Furman, Middle Tennessee State. You should beat Wake Forest in Winston-Salem. You should beat Georgia Southern. You got Kentucky at home. Right now I'm looking at 5-0. You come here, and we'll see what that's going to be like. You go to LSU. Oh, that's a tough. That might be an L. You'll host Oklahoma, which will be a very interesting game. Oklahoma, again, a double-digit win team last year.
Yep.
That's replacing its offensive line and its quarterback. So that one's going to be interesting. You go to Arkansas, you should win that one. Georgia is in Oxford. That will be a test of who you are. Am I right?
There is a chance both these teams could be undefeated going into that, not penultimate weekend of the season, but second Saturday in November. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about a big-time game?
Oh, yeah. Or, let's look at this. Let's say the only loss Ole Miss gets is LSU.
Right.
In Baton Rouge. So you'd have a one-loss LSU. As much as we hope they have 2 losses because we hope they lose here in Columbia.
Sure.
But let's just say they're a one-loss LSU team going to the Georgia game. Then you go to Florida, whoever the coach will be there, and then you'll host Mississippi State.
Right.
You could conceivably be a 2-loss team this year.
Yeah, for sure.
So
and
it's...
You know what? 10-2 in the SEC, you'd miss out on Atlanta, but you're in the playoff.
Yeah, and they are set up, and there's a ton of this. This is the most expectation they've had at Ole Miss since Archie Manning was there. Probably.
Oh, 1,000%. No, they're always a program that you feel like is better than it actually is, but their fan base, unlike a Florida, does not put these ungodly expectations on the team every single year. But this year is different. Because you are bringing a lot of talent back. You're bringing a lot of talent in the transfer portal. They are more hyped in Oxford, Mississippi than they've ever been.
You know what's interesting? You look at South Carolina's schedule, that landmine or minefield, and then you look at Ole Miss, and you got to go to Baton Rouge, and you got to go to Baton Rouge, and you got to go to Baton Rouge. That's far and away the toughest road game on the schedule, far and away.
Yeah, and again, with the way the schedule shakes out now without an East and a West, you're not playing Alabama, which we don't know how good or bad Alabama's going to be this year, but nevertheless, that's a team that you constantly had to deal with on a year-in, year-out basis that you don't have to right now. We'll see what LSU's going to be. Again, taking on Oklahoma's going to be tough. Georgia's obviously not going to be easy in your home venue there, but as far as road tests go, I'm assuming that'll be a night
But you're
game in
hoping
Death
for
Valley.
that Columbia game
You're
is going to
hoping-
be the biggest road
and
test.
the fact that that's a week before, you hope it's a trap.
All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll come back here with Shane Beamer had to say at the Myrtle Beach Welcome Home. It's a halftime show on the game. Halftime show here on The Game with Terry Ford and Tyler Head and Corey Parson, and we're just kicking this thing up until 3 o'clock here on The Game. Then the post-game show, the abbreviated version, which will go till 3:45, and then we have baseball in Columbia and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and Kentucky. Elimination game in the SEC tournament in Hoover. We'll get it going here, and if South Carolina wins, they'll jump into the weekend 12:45. I believe the coverage would start tomorrow again in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. And we've talked a ton about the game last night. A very, very frustrating, difficult loss to LSU, a game you were winning by 3 runs late. Couldn't hold on to the lead, lose 11-10. We'll get back into that in the top of the hour as we get into what's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. Right now, it's football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. All right, so Shane Beamer rolled his welcome home. His tour continued. Myrtle Beach, I think this is the last part of the tour. Then I think he jumps on with Taylor Swift. Just saying. So Shane talked about a bunch of different stuff. One, Corey, let's pop up the one where he's talking about the offensive linemen are still hanging out, working, whether it's the weight room, wherever in the complex. They're still working out in May. They didn't go anywhere. They're all still hanging and grinding. Hit that for us, Corey.
I think it's huge, and most of them did. I mean, I was in the weight room yesterday and saw Tree and saw Ja'Kai and whatnot, saw Trevon, so many of those, Cam Pringle, I think they've all been there bits and pieces. We don't want to hold them hostage in the month of May. I want them to be able to get away, but they're strictly there on their own. I mean, it's completely voluntary, but they've done a great job. We're fortunate, Weston, that we got all those guys come back, and you got some older guys and Vershawn Lee and Ja'Kai Moore, who are older guys and really kind of taking charge, and they're hungry to have a good year and know that it's important for them to take a step in the month of May and get an edge maybe on other offensive lines across the country that weren't on campus and together in the month of May. So I'm really excited that they decided to stay and were around for the most part. They were able to get away for a little bit, and some of them are still away. That's great, but I think that they were able to take a huge step. I think I've talked about it before, but some of those offensive linemen, you worry about them going home and not laying around all month and not doing anything, but laying on your mom's couch is a little bit different than being in the weight room every day with us in Columbia. And you worry about them going home and maybe getting out of shape or putting on too many pounds, where now they come back at the beginning of June and it takes them 2 weeks to get that weight off and get back in shape. That won't be an issue. They'll be able to start workouts on Tuesday morning and hit the ground running and be in a great position physically because of what they did in the month of May.
Look, if your offensive line hadn't struggled, especially last year, the way it did, to the depth and the level of the struggle, you're like, yeah, if they stay, cool. If they go, it's up to them, man. You want to do free time, do free time. You want to stay and grind, stay and grind. But when your offensive line was as colossally bad as the South Carolina offensive line was last year, if I'm an offensive lineman there, you know what I'm doing in May?
Working out more.
Working out a ton.
Well, and I think about this from the standpoint of the psyche of your fan base, just to give them some kind of calm as we get set.
Mm-hmm.
We're 99 days away from kickoff right now. It's like, oh, hey, the offensive lineman putting in extra work in the month of May. Right. Is that going to make a difference on the field this fall? I don't know, but at least sounds good, right?
And that's what it is. It just makes you feel good that they're working to get better.
Sure.
They're doing everything in their power to get better. Now, is what's going on right now going to translate automatically into success? No, it doesn't. I remember this. I'll go NFL real quick. Mark Sanchez was a quarterback of the New York Jets years ago.
Yes.
Sanchez wasn't very good. But Mark
correct.
Sanchez every year held what he called Jets West.
Yes,
where
I remember this.
Sanchez and the wide receivers would get together in Cali and work out. So you're going, wow, they're working out together. They're getting their rhythm and their timing and their mojo. This is going to make the Jets' offense and passing game so much better. It didn't.
No.
It didn't. So there's no guarantee things are going to work.
I was going to say, because I don't know, and I'm assuming Ja'Kai Moore is a part of this. But let's say Ja'Kai Moore misses a block in week 3 against LSU because he wasn't here in May.
No.
He let that guy through. He wasn't here in May. And that's
if he'd been here in May,
he would have made that block.
He would have made that block.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a reach, but
you just it makes you feel good as a fan going, they're doing everything they can.
Literally, and that's why fans are. It's so funny how quickly fans shift. And I saw something the other day. It was I don't know if it was a recent video or an older video of Shane Beamer walking around the facility with a squirt gun or something like that. You know, one of the things they shared on social media, fun video, they do them all the time. Shane Beamer's got that kind of personality. And somebody quote tweeted and is like, we went 5-7 last year. What are you doing having fun? And, you know, and I didn't respond to it, but other people were like, what difference does this make if he's having fun on a random Tuesday or not? That you're missing the core point here, but I understand the frustration.
Sure, and that's where it comes from. And you're like, I mean, our boy Gunner sits here and goes, I know, no more social media videos. No more cool videos, no more slick videos. Just give me some W's. I get that.
Sure.
And that's where the frustration comes from the fan base. Look, when this team won 8 games, and Shane Beamer's running around with a squirt gun in the video, that's our coach.
He's got the sunglasses. They're doing the mock rap videos.
Yeah.
Like, hey, but that's our guy.
Keeping everybody loose. He's a player's
cool.
coach.
He's a player's coach.
He's this,
he
he's
understands
that.
the young guys. Like, that's fantastic.
Knows the pulse of the team. They have fun.
Yeah.
They know joy, right? All that stuff when you win 8 games.
For sure.
When you have a 5-7 season that disappoints everyone, nobody wants you playing with squirt guns. Nobody wants you out there having fun. They want you grinding and being miserable like they were watching last season.
Let's go back to after the Florida game last year. In the middle of that awful month of October where Carolina couldn't buy a win if they tried. You lose that game tight, 4th down at the end of the game. We talked about it ad nauseum at this point in time. Kicks a cooler in the locker room after the game out of frustration. The conversation, what a clown. Lost control of his pride. Can't handle his emotions. But if they win that game and he's so fired up, he kicks a cooler, man, that's my coach. Yeah. So passionate, so fired up about this win that he broke his own foot.
And, and the thing to me, though, and I was in the minority on this, I was like, I like to see that.
Sure.
Because he's feeling the same frustration everyone's feeling. It's sitting at Williams-Brice, watching the game on TV, listening to it here on the game.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea that he's so aggravated by losing a game they should have won that he kicks the cooler. But not many people thought that way.
No, and I'll say this.
Feinbaum went off on him.
I know, Feinbaum, can rub you the wrong way sometimes. But when you're a coach that does have that outgoing personality, when you are the one that does lean into the social media stuff, the fun side of things, the engagement, that kind of stuff, again, when it's going good, everybody's on your side. The second it turns in the other direction, what are you doing this for? Why are you wasting your time? You should be running drills right now instead of doing this, which, I mean, again, you can't do any formal team activities right now.
You should be doing sprints up and down the stadium steps every day to show everybody how aggravated you are.
Well, that's like the guy on Twitter's like, you should be focusing on winning this season. Nobody's on campus. And the guys that are doing voluntary workouts. You literally can't do anything right now.
Right. And I think if as a coach, what would make me feel good about having this amount of offensive linemen still here, that it is voluntary.
Right.
Now, again, did your position coach say, hey, be in your best interest to hang here in May and work out? I don't know. But I know this. If I'm Shane Beamer and I see guys that are here working, especially at, I would say, the weakest position on the team last year, and they're all trying to get better in preparing for this upcoming season so what you saw last year doesn't happen again.
Right.
If I'm Shane Beamer, I'm walking out of the room going, yeah, that's what I like.
Exactly.
Again, how's it going to translate to the season? What you hope is this. All of this work together in the offseason builds a cohesion and builds a culture and builds strength, more athleticism, more this, more that. And you're going out there working out together, doing things together that you're leading into. Then you get to summer. And when you start running plays and doing this and doing that, that you are like, what do they call it? One set of eyes and all these things and we yap about. You're hoping you're laying groundwork for success.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
And I get that. And again, when you're talking about the offensive line, that's especially, true because that is the one unit that does kind of function as one, despite the fact that it's multiple guys occupying those positions. And again, that's something you didn't have a season ago because we went through, 8-9 games before we finally had a consistent starting 5 on a back-to-back week basis.
Because we feel like if the combination of transfer portal, guys coming back and getting a year older and another year of development, and freshmen coming in, you feel like, oh, my God, you got to find 5, right?
You would think.
You would think.
Yeah.
There's 5 here. You got to have 5 that can be one set of eyes and all that stuff. That's the way your mind works. And now that you know that they're all sitting there grinding in May together, that it just makes you feel better.
Yes.
Feel better. All right, halftime show, Firehouse Sub, text the hour, 803-404-6100 as we do football in the 1 o'clock hour here on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Corey Parson here running the show as we cook this baby up until 3. All right, first we'll start Firehouse Subtext the hour, 803-404-6100. You got anything there, man?
Yeah, so we talked about, the impending settlement with the NCAA versus House case that is obviously going to allow back pay for athletes that did not get to benefit off of NIL in the past, and now opens the door for athletes to become employees. An analyst texter weighs in and says, we actually talked about this yesterday. Pretty sure George Rogers was getting paid for his name, image, and likeness. Now, was it legal at that point in time? No. Do you think George Rogers was getting absolutely nothing while he was here at South Carolina? If you're naive, sure, but let's not be silly here.
Yeah, I mean, again, but the thought is with fans, especially in that day and time, is everybody's dirty but your school.
Exactly.
My school would never do those things.
No,
My school
not
would
at all.
never, ever, ever, ever fall into giving players illegal inducements or against the rules inducements. And really, I've always said this. You don't know what your school's doing.
No, and honestly, there was a comfort in the way that it used to be where you could just plug your ears and pretend instead of everything being so out in the open now. I get people that, and again, I'm pro athlete on this. Like, I'm down with people getting paid for profiting off of who they are and what they're able to do on the field and stuff like that. But I get the sense of calm. You could just say, yeah, my school's not doing that.
Everybody else is doing it, but not mine.
Those dirty guys over there and over there, but not us.
Rule breakers. You guys not doing it like us, the right way.
Yeah.
And the truth is, somewhere at your school, something's not being done the right way. It's just reality.
Until the NCAA turned up for an investigation, you could pretend that all you wanted.
Yep, you could. And the thing also that got me about that kind of stuff was, at the end of the day, what is the right way?
There's not.
There's not a right way.
Because guess what? If you're not trying to work in the gray area, somebody else is.
What's the old
saying? They're getting an advantage over you.
You ain't cheating?
Exactly.
You ain't trying.
You know, if you were going 0-12 every single year, you may not have been cheating.
Well, I've always said this, too, to be fair. Would you rather go 0-12 and do it the right way? Or go 12-0 and,
I think we know the answer.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the text, like always, in the Firehouse Subtext line 803-404-6100. All right, so right now in this studio, there's a very nasty, stinking smell of pickles.
I'm giving people the proof.
Okay, this is your pickle Dr. Pepper.
You're watching on the live stream. I'm holding it up to the camera.
You had pickle Dr. Pepper today. Now, let me ask you this.
Yes.
That makes me throw up in my mouth thinking about it and smelling it.
Yeah.
How was the pickle Dr. Pepper?
Not bad. Am I going to put a pickle in my Dr. Pepper every single time? I'm not. But if you ask me to drink it again, I would.
All right, so now you are going to eat the Dr. Pepper soaked pickles.
You see the color on that, by the way? It's changed a little bit.
Disgusting.
A little darker.
Yeah, that looks about the opposite of appetizing. But go ahead, Tyler Head. Go for it. I can hear it crunching. That's vile.
It's kept a lot of the pickle taste, I won't lie.
Not a lot of Dr. Pepper?
A tinge of Dr. Pepper, but it's more kind of syrupy than anything else.
You're kind of turning colors.
It kept a lot of the pickle flavor, I won't lie.
So thumbs up or thumbs down?
I mean, it tastes pretty close to a normal pickle to me. It changed the drink more than it changed the pickle, if that makes sense.
Tyler Head, pickle and Dr. Pepper aficionado.
Hey, if you want to go for it.
Yeah, that's okay.
You okay? I'm getting an aftertaste. There's a little bit of a funky aftertaste.
I should have got that on video. I just stopped the video.
It's not like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up. It's like, it's an odd taste. I will say that much.
Not a pleasant taste.
It's not that it's not pleasant. It's just like.
You have a weird look on your face right now.
It's an in-between, I guess.
If you do projectile vomit, we'll have it on the game TV. That's the good news.
That's why we got our guys in integrated media to set us up in here for this exact moment.
Our guy Shepherd's Glass will be so proud. Oh, they threw up today on the game TV. Glad we're sponsoring. All right, so we appreciate the text of the hour, Firehouse subtext the hour at 803-404-6100. We appreciate you doing your Dr. Pepper pickle thing.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I like pickles. I like Dr. Pepper.
All right, so do we? What's the next thing to mix the pickles in?
Oh gosh, you know what? I only found out about this from like YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that. I'm sure there's other food challenges out there. If you have any recommended, please let me know. Firehouse Ups text line or hit me on Twitter at TylerHead18. And I don't know, we can make this a recurring segment during the week.
I think so.
That I try something different.
I mean, let's be honest here. Here's the deal. Baseball season's over. We're going to be firmly into talking season. So we might as well start seeing what kind of terrible things we can do to your stomach lining.
You know what? We can get you. They sell those like snack boxes from around the world. I can try like some, I don't know, candy and snacks from Bolivia or something like that.
You know what? Why not?
Sure.
Why not at this point, sir? All right, real quick before we get out of football here in the 1 o'clock hour. You know, it's a story that really doesn't surprise anybody. Antonio Brown. If you'd have said to me Antonio Brown would file for bankruptcy on a scale of 1 to 10, how surprised would you be? 10, really surprised? 1, not surprised at all? I'm at negative 10.
Negative 18,000.
The things you've heard about him off the field and the things you've heard about his money management skills, none of this surprises me one bit.
Can't wait for the documentary.
That 30 for 30 will be legendary. All righty. It's football in the 1 o'clock hour. What's trending at 2 coming up next here on the halftime show in the game? Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Obviously, what's trending at 2 is the SEC baseball tournament in Hoover. Gamecocks, as a heartbreaker last night. You're up 10-7 late. You lose 11-10 to LSU. We've talked about it, Tyler. Defensively, I mean, you had 2 huge errors that opened the floodgates. But again, you're pitching because, look, it's the SEC tournament. Obviously, you know, you're just trying to throw stuff against the wall. So obviously your pitching gave up runs, but your defense didn't help you out. And you had critical errors in critical moments. It's a shame because your offense stepped up, scored you 10 runs. It's a game you should win.
Yeah, and look, we knew going into last night's game with how well LSU been playing this week, you're going to have to score a lot of runs and be probably as close to perfect as possible if you wanted to stand a chance against them. And again, you're in position there in the top of the 9th inning, you know, with the lead and the ability to hopefully hang on and secure the victory. But yeah, you have the bad throw by Lee Croy from third base, and then you have Cassis letting the ball get underneath him, which ended up plating 2 runs there. And at the end of the day, that ended up being the difference. So, you know, that's something you got to correct today. Kentucky team that you did handle, you know, right at a month ago, took 2 out of 3 against them, including a 10-run run rule in the 3rd game of that series, which SQ pitched really well in, and I haven't seen anything updated lately, but I assume he's going to be getting the start today. And hopefully you win that, and you'd be rematching with LSU again tomorrow.
Yeah, same thing. Everything has been TBA because it is.
Yeah.
I get it. It's not like you're hiding anything. You're sitting around going, who are we going to pitch?
Right.
So it's probably going to be Dylan Eskew, and you hope you get the good Dylan Eskew.
Sure.
That you've seen, like against Kentucky during that 3-game series. SQ was money in that game.
And we talked about this earlier with Jack, you know, out there in Hoover, and you know, we brought up a really good point that you probably want to try and get Roman Kimball out there at some point this weekend. Now, I don't know if it's going to be in a starting role like today or if you play a game tomorrow, maybe something like that. But he's a guy that, you know, he has not pitched well as of late. And again, he was in that weekend rotation for the last couple series and did not last very long in any of those games. So his confidence obviously taking a little bit of a ding right now. But when you talk about going to a regional next weekend where you're potentially playing multiple games more than you would on a regular weekend, you're going to need as many arms ready to go as possible. So even if you throw him out there for an inning or 2, just to get his feet wet again and hopefully build that confidence back up a little bit, I think that can go a long way with a guy like him.
You know, I was going to bring him up at some point before we got off the air, and I'm glad our boy intern Joe did. But, you know, with Roman Kimball, there's so much arm talent there.
Sure.
But he started the year, remember, he ended up going to the sports psychologist to get himself, because he came off of Tommy John.
Yeah, which
he struggled.
Understandable.
Went to the sports psychologist. All of a sudden, he righted the ship and was pitching really well, became the opener on Friday night.
Yep.
Then struggle started. And it got worse and worse. And he was just having trouble throwing strikes. And he hasn't been used since that last meltdown on that Friday night against Georgia.
Yep.
Has not been used.
Yep.
I get it. It's the SEC tournament. I understand you're playing to try to get to the weekend. You're still trying to improve your seeding. You know, in your mind, well, if we won the SEC tournament, could we get back into a hosting spot, even if it's number 16 or whatever? I understand there's things to play for.
Right.
But I would try to trot Roman Kimball out there for an inning.
Yeah, if nothing else. Just to, and look, here's the thing. You have him on a short leash. If things start going sideways, yank him. Put somebody else in there. And again, you kind of, you know, have your complement of guys that pitch for you in day number 1 because they've had a couple days to rest now. Yeah, so you have options, including a guy like Garrett Gainey. So if things start going sideways, yank him out there and then reassess it next week when you get into your regional, wherever that may be. But you just need to give him something. You don't need him in a situation where you're going into, let's say, a regional game against Clemson and a must-win, saying, all right, we got no other option. Kimball, get out there and start. And he's been on 3 weeks rest.
Right. I just think you need to use him for an inning. And look, if he's still, and I agree with you, have the bullpen ready.
Yeah, totally.
It's not like, you know, hey, Roman, go get him. Okay, you bullpen guys, go get a hot dog.
Right.
No, I mean, you get ready in case he continues to struggle to throw strikes, and all of a sudden he's putting dudes on base or hitting guys.
Right.
But I just think you got to get him out there. Because, again, there's arm talent there. That's a guy that could help you. Right now, his confidence is low. Maybe get him out there if he can get through an inning without giving up anything. All of a sudden, he's got a little puffy chest, right?
Sure.
And like you brought up. Then, if you need him in the regional, for whatever reason, now he's got a good taste.
Yeah.
I would give that a shot if I were South Carolina today.
Definitely so. And here's the thing. Obviously, you would like to win today. You want to win tomorrow. You want to come home with the trophy on Sunday.
Sure.
If you lose today, you're still in a good spot. You're still going to a regional, likely as a 2 seed. So I don't want to say you can lean into experimenting a little bit more, but if you lose today, it's not the end of the world because you've proven yourself this week. You've gotten 2 valuable wins against quad 1 opponents that bolstered your resume more, which at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do with the SEC tournament to begin with, is just give yourself a lock-in for the NCAA tournament and put yourself in a good position for next week, which you've already done.
We talked about this when the show started, while you were hanging out at Firehouse making subs. Think about where you were on Monday.
Yes.
Think about where you are today. On Monday, the world's ending. You might not make the tournament. You're on a 6-game losing streak. And God forbid if you lose that first game.
Half the people are already interviewing other head coaches.
Yes. Or making lists for this and that.
Right.
You've won 2. You really should have won 3. You've played good baseball for the money. Again, you had some defensive meltdowns yesterday. But you've played well enough to be legitimately in the semifinals of the SEC tournament.
Right.
You are in such a much better spot now than you were Monday. So even if you, like you said, you put Roman Kimball out there today and God forbid he blows up. So you're not, you are in such a much better space than you were in the beginning of this week. All right, let's pop a couple of cuts here. We'll start off with Coach Kingston post-game talking about the freshmen. The freshmen got on the mound yesterday. Mixed results, but the freshman got on the mound. Here is Coach Kingston, cut 10, Corey, talking about the freshman pitching in yesterday's game against LSU.
I mean, it was really good. They needed that kind of experience. They needed that stage. They're very talented. They're going to be really good moving forward, and they needed it. Whether it worked out or whether it didn't work out, they needed this experience for their growth. And they probably both wish they would have done a little bit better, but thought they had their moments. And again, they'll be better because they were in front of that crowd on that stage, and they'll be much better because of it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you walk off that mound now knowing what it feels like.
Yeah, for sure. And especially when you talk about a guy like Pitzer, who, again, had done enough early on in the season to put himself in that starting role. Things started to go sideways. He started to get some of those starts in SEC play and found himself back in a bullpen position. But again, when you're talking about next weekend in the regional where you could potentially be playing 4 games again, you're probably going to get at this point again where you're going to have to get creative with who your starters are going to be. And Pitzer might be one of those options. So putting him out there, especially against a high-powered offense like LSU's been this week, and seeing what he can do, I think goes a long way with figuring out what your plan next weekend is going to be.
Well, with Pitzer and McCoy, these are young arms that South Carolina really likes for the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they got a taste of pitching in the SEC tournament, chance to throw on that stage in front of that crowd in that situation. It only helps, I guess you hope it only helps the growth and development of both of these guys moving forward. Because, again, you have plans for both of them in the future.
Oh, for sure. No, these are guys, especially, Pitzer, that's going to be in the conversation as maybe being in your weekend rotation next year, depending on what kind of development he makes in the offseason, strides forward he can make. But, yeah, having that opportunity to pitch on this stage and whatever they end up doing next week in the regionals and however far beyond that this team ends up going is only going to help them improve.
Yeah, and again, it was out of necessity, sure, but even though they went combined 4 1/3 innings, 5 earned runs, 6 runs total, it's still one of those things where you go, all right, hopefully we're better off in the future with these two dudes taking the hill today.
Sure.
All right, also Coach Kingston talk about again Michael Braswell with the game-winning knock. Here's Coach Kingston's response being asked about Michael Braswell.
Yeah, I think I felt a little bit like Tim Corbin watching Parker Noland and Gavin Cassis. It's the age we're in, the transfer portal age. Guys are moving around to different teams and trying to make the most of their careers, and that's something you don't begrudge anybody.
No, you get that point. You don't. I mean, fans still look. We've talked about it here. That was so Gamecock.
Yeah.
In my 3 years here, these fans have told me these stories of these type of situations, and it's almost like when Michael Braswell's walking to the plate, I'm not going to lie to you, I had a couple guys who I know around here texted me and said,
something's going to happen.
Here's what he's going to get the go-ahead hit.
Right.
Because that's just how they feel.
Sure.
Because they've gone through this time. I mean, we saw Jermaine Cousinard become Steph Curry, for the love of God.
Saw a lot of people making those comparisons.
In the NCAA tournament.
People are already afraid of Juice Wells this fall.
Right. And you just go, wow. And people always go to curses and all these other things, and I don't believe in all that mumbo-jumbo. but you do shake your head and go, why does this keep happening?
But you know what? Whenever you go up against a former player or whatever it may be, and you get the better of them, nobody talks about that. Like, oh, it's finally out of the boat.
Yeah.
You know, the curse is finally over. No, it's going to happen again later down the line.
And look, South Carolina's played against ex-Gamecocks
totally
many times. And this doesn't happen every time.
Sure.
But it happens enough where it's a thing. It just is. In the psyche of a fan, it's a thing.
I was going to say, you know, if Florida was on the schedule this year for football and they're not, you'd say, oh, well, means Pup Howard's going to have, 8 sacks that day or whatever it may be. It just kind of feels that way. And I understand that sentiment. But Michael Braswell had been playing great leading into last night's game. He had been moved in that leadoff spot for LSU in their last series of the regular season against Ole Miss. He was on a 9-game hitting streak going into last night. He had a couple RBIs already earlier on this week. Like, it wasn't just caught fire out of nowhere. Like, he's been consistently good. It just happened that he had his one hit last night to keep that streak going in a very clutch moment.
And you brought it up. He was hitless going into that at bat.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was all over the bases and he had a multi-hit game. I mean, the LSU freshman went nuts.
But what are people going to remember? That one moment.
Of course. That one moment. And look, I get the fan base about Braswell. Totally understand. I do. I get it. And it's just you sit there and you go, okay, losing that game stinks enough.
Right.
But what really makes it suck next level is that guy got the game-winning hit.
Right.
Or the go-ahead knock. So I get it. But there's Coach Kingston. And Mark is correct. This is the world. Every coach is going to play against an ex-player now at some point.
Well, he talks about Tim Corbin looking across while South Carolina was sweeping Vanderbilt at Gavin Cassis and Parker Nolan.
Yep.
And what those guys did that weekend, like, oh, man, I don't know what the Vanderbilt fan base is saying about that, but they couldn't have been thrilled to see those guys having success. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, it does. And you like it when it goes your way, though.
Oh, totally.
That's the human nature of it, is you love it when it goes your way.
That's just like, when people complain about guys that do transfer out. And it is funny when people, not that everybody does that, but as soon as somebody transfers out, we didn't want him here anyway. He didn't want to be a part of this. He's not a team guy, but as soon as somebody transfers in from another school, it's like, oh, we're so happy to have him. He's the right guy for this program. Well, he left another program to come here.
But that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's all right. Or it's okay Spencer Rattler shows up here. But it's not okay when someone transfers out.
Double-edged sword.
And I get it. It's just the nature of us as fans.
It is.
We welcome you when you come in, and we hate you if you leave.
Please.
Especially if we want to keep you. Now remember this. If the fourth string left tackle transfers, who cares?
Yeah, sure.
But if the starting left tackle transfers,
he's dead to us.
Yes.
How dare you?
How dare you?
You made my child cry.
Yes. We hate you. We hate you deeply. All right. So that is the comments of Coach Kingston about Michael Braswell. All right. What's trending at 2? We will take a look at some of the other things happening in the world of sports a little bit outside of South Carolina and what's been going on. It's been very busy. It's been very busy for this time of year in the world of sports. Had an NBA conference final game 2 last night. We'll get into that. And we'll also, we're not going to delve into what was said, but what do you do when you play on a team and a member of your team in a public speaking situation says controversial things and now everybody's coming back to you to comment on it?
Right.
We're going to go, because that just happened.
It did.
And we're going to get to that too. It's what's trending at 2. Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. It's Terry Ford, Tyler Head, and Corey, and we're kicking till 3. Remember, baseball 3:45. The coverage begins for Carolina and Kentucky right here on the game in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach. Halftime show on the game. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry here on the game with Terry Ford and Tyler Head and Corey Parson as we roll up until 3. Then Jay and Elijah will do. Now, it's been a weird week for them. They had an 11-minute show 2 days ago.
That's right.
Yesterday, they actually put together about 2 hours.
Well,
roughly.
and then, I guess the pregame coverage started at the same time regardless because yesterday's game didn't go off until about 6 o'clock last night.
So then today, they'll have a 45-minute show.
Really like 40 minutes, being honest.
Because they got to go into commercial and come out and all that happy stuff.
But you know what? At the early part of the season, when the games were starting very early on in the afternoon, they're the ones that got off easier.
Yeah, they did.
Because they didn't have to do as many shows.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
it comes around.
We did the things where it was like, hey, guys, don't worry about coming here for 45 minutes. We'll extend the. We said, hey, guys, we'll extend the halftime show.
Right.
We'll do that for you.
Right.
So, hey.
Not anymore.
Suck it up. That's right.
We got things to do this
No
weekend.
more free rides.
That's right.
Memorial Day weekend. All right. What's trending at 2 as we move on to some of the stories outside of our little burg. Last night, Boston, they take out Indiana. Pretty much had a gigantic 20-0 run in the first half. Indiana cut it to 6, cut it to 4 at one point, but then Boston kicked it back in again, won easy. Jaylen Brown went for 40. Jason Tatum, I think, had 32. And Halliburton, unfortunately, Tyrese Halliburton, hamstring, acted up on him again. He missed a while with this hamstring earlier in the year. Without Halliburton, the Pacers have no chance.
Right.
He is the engine of that team. Even though he's had weird games in this postseason, Tyler. There are games where it almost feels like is Halliburton on the court? And then there's games where he just takes over. It's been very strange. And look, this is his first postseason as a perceived dude.
Right.
But he's massively skilled, and the idea he'll disappear in these games is kind of head-scratching. But that goes also, look, no offense, that goes on your head coach as well to make sure that this guy doesn't go MIA, and he's on a milk carton.
Right.
That's one of the things all the time. Well, this guy, he's not taking shots. Well, why not? I mean, if I'm a head coach, I'm calling a timeout and say, I want to introduce you to somebody. This is Mr. Halliburton. Make sure the orange basketball is in his hands every time and plus he's the point guard.
Sure.
So again, this thing, I don't understand how that's been in this postseason, but it was interesting last night. Now I'll ask you what you think of this.
Okay.
So Indiana is down going into the fourth quarter. Halliburton's hurt, and Rick Carlisle, who I like as a head coach, decides he is going to just stop playing guys. Siakam didn't play the last 9 minutes. He had other guys who didn't play the fourth quarter. Basically waved the white flag.
Sure.
Now, the thought process is A, you're not winning this game. Rest your guys. You got 2 games in Indiana. You want to even this thing at 2-2 coming back. You don't want to go down 3-1. But there's other part of this. You don't give away a playoff game, ever. We've seen teams this entire postseason come back from 20 down or double-digit deficits.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that the optics of it don't look good. I understand what you're trying to accomplish there and preserving. Again, you got 2 more games back at home coming up. I guess it'd be Saturdays when the next game is. But I understand what you're trying to do, but the optics of that don't look good because you truly don't want to give up because you never know how these things can turn on a dime, especially late in a fourth quarter like that. So probably not the most popular decision. Now, if they go out there and win the next 2 in Indianapolis, and suddenly you tie the series and saying, well, hey, look, I rest these guys in the fourth quarter and we're better off because of it. We'll wait and see how that plays out.
Well, it's always the result, right?
Sure.
But me, I can't give up. That's just me. If I was the head coach, hey, okay, if we're down 30 with 4 minutes left, everybody come have a seat.
Yeah.
But I am not giving up.
If you can still see the carrot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's just me because it's the postseason.
Right.
I can't do what Rick Carlisle did. But to your point, if they go back home and win 2, they were well rested. Carlisle, smart move, Rick.
There are people in Indianapolis right now writing the story about how big of an idiot he is for doing that last night. If they come out, win the next 2 games to tie up the series, what a genius move in game number 2 for resting his guys.
You know what? If I was a beat guy covering that team, I'd write 2 stories. I got them both sitting there.
Ready.
And whichever way I go, I'm covered. So that's what happened last night. Of course, Indiana choked away game 1.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and multiple reasons Indiana choked away game 1. They should have won game 1. So you should have won game 1, and you didn't. And then game 2, I mean, the Celtics are just better. They just showed you. That's the thing with the Celtics. and they don't have Porzingis right now either.
Mm-hmm.
They are so much better than Indiana. They just are, right? I mean, look, Indiana's got a lot of offensive firepower, and every now and then they try to play defense when they're in the mood. But Indiana's just, they're just not as good as Boston.
How excited is the NBA about the potential of a Boston-Dallas final? Two of the biggest media markets in the entire country. Obviously, one of the biggest brands in all of American sports with the Boston Celtics. You got Luka on the other side with the Mavericks. Like, I don't want to say that's the dream matchup scenario, but it's pretty close to it, I would say.
Well, guess what? That's the star power, too.
Sure.
No offense to Anthony Edwards in Minnesota, but the star power is Luka, and then the story of Kyrie Irving all of a sudden 180ing from the guy he's been to all of a sudden a leader and a great teammate and a guy who thinks of the team over himself and all this other stuff that Kyrie Irving hasn't been in a long time.
Right.
And by the way, Kyrie Irving on the court has a ton of skill.
Yeah.
So the Dallas-Boston matchup is if you're in the NBA office or if you're the conspiracy theory guy wearing your aluminum foil helmet,
Yep.
the NBA wants that one.
Of course.
Minnesota, Indiana,
Yeah.
maybe not so much.
Hey, that excites the Midwest.
Oh, yeah, the Midwest is all over. So that's what we got moving forward right now. Okay, let's get to this story also as we do what's trending at 2. All right, Harrison Buckner was addressing female graduates during a 20-minute commencement address at Benedictine College. During the speech, Buckner addressed the women in the audience at one point saying they had, quote, the most diabolical lies told to them, and that while some may go on to lead successful careers, the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you'll bring into this world. He used his wife, Isabel, as an example, saying she embraced one of the most important titles of all, homemaker. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go into that.
Right.
That's a personal preference thought of who you are and how you think about things, and I'm not going there. Because there are a lot of shows that can handle that better than I or you or we. Yeah. But then Patrick Mahomes gets asked about it. Andy Reid gets asked about it. Travis Kelce gets asked about it. And now they've got to tiptoe a line.
Sure.
If you agree or disagree with your teammate, are you going to be honest and say that? If you agree with him, then you bring it on you, right?
Yep.
And then if you vehemently disagree with him, now all the other narratives, the locker room now, there's going to be this or that, dynamics and culture. I thought it's been handled very well by Andy Reid. And I didn't hear Travis Kelce. Mm-hmm. I did hear Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. They basically said, look, that's how he thinks and believes. And whether I agree or disagree with it doesn't matter, but he's my teammate and we love him. And once we get back to playing football, this is a brotherhood, yada, yada. Andy Reid even said, there's a lot of things you reporters probably believe in that I disagree with or I believe in you disagree with. I thought the Chiefs handled this potential issue about as well as you could, the leadership that was asked about it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no perfect way to do this, but I think, and I didn't hear what Mahomes said specifically. I know he's on the McAfee show the other day talking about it, but I heard what Andy Reid had to say, and I think that's the best answer that you can give, that, look, you're never going to be able to satisfy everybody, especially when it's something that's split on either side of the aisle like this, but that's probably about as close to good as you can get with that kind of thing. And look, here's the thing. It's going to fizzle out over time. I mean, it'll get brought up down the line, if he makes a game-winning field goal or something like that this fall. Hey, that's the guy that said this back in the spring, but it's eventually going to taper off because we're in the middle of nothing really happening in the NFL right now. And again, it's just kind of this storm you have to navigate through right now.
You know what, though? Hearing them answer it, this shows you why the culture in Kansas City is so good.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? I mean, when they gave their answer, you went, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what you do. Move on. And it was just, you didn't throw them under the bus. You didn't agree with them. You didn't give your personal take on it. You just said, look, everybody's got their own beliefs and thoughts, and he's our teammate. And that's the one thing that strong cultures understand, that everybody's an individual. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got their own thoughts and beliefs. And we might not agree. We might not agree, but we can agree to disagree and still go do what we need to do together and be successful.
Sure.
We don't have to agree on everything. One of the things about today in sports is like coaches, managers, you see guys get fired and you hear about, the dynamic between the GM or the dynamic between the owner or this coach, he didn't brush his teeth but every 3 days or something.
Right.
And my thing is this, I really don't care. You know what I care about? Are you winning?
True.
And can we win together?
Kansas City's done a lot of that.
Yes, they have. What's trending at 2? We're done. Greatest day in the history of the world is next. Halftime show with all of us here on the game. Time for the greatest day in the history of the world, which today is May 24th. A lot of English Premier League soccer on this day, and obviously I'm such a soccer fan.
That's right up Jay's wheelhouse.
Oh, Jay be all over this.
You're not going to go to the Premier League game that's coming to Willie B?
Yeah, I will.
You will?
Because that's an event.
Yeah, that's true.
I am a fan of events.
Yeah, one of those things that you got to be able to say you were there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm on it because and one of the reasons that we always look at events and try to make them bigger than just, hey, it's an event, and it's cool, and I want to be part of it, right?
Right.
Like we do this with, I remember all the time, like U.S. hockey team, when, I won't go back to, 1980, but just when they had the pros, when the pros first started playing, the U.S. hockey team was playing for a gold medal and things like that, and they were good ratings, because again, we all root for our country.
Sure.
And it's an event, and everybody gets together in the Olympics and all that.
Sure.
And people thought, well, that's gonna translate in big TV ratings for hockey. No.
No.
Because every hockey game is not an event.
Yes.
So that's my point. Events are different than people hunkering down every game to watch just a regular game.
That's why the World Cup's a big deal, and most people don't give a crap about the MLS.
Exactly.
Even though it's our professional hockey, or soccer league here in America.
We like events. The World Cup's an event.
That's right.
All right. So greatest day in the history of the world, the UEFA or UEFA, I guess they call it, UEFA, whatever the hell, that was going on too. And there's a lot of stuff in history of that with Real Madrid and all this other stuff. All right. So for non-soccer, on this day in 1995, Dennis Eckersley becomes the sixth pitcher to record 300 saves. Eckersley is interesting. As a starting pitcher, he was a 20-game winner with the Indians. I do believe he threw a no-hitter when he was a starting pitcher. Then he had some off-the-field issues. He was pretty deep into the boozing. Mm-hmm. Kind of cratered his career. Then all of a sudden, the Oakland A's stumbled into making him a closer. And he became one of the greatest closers in the history of baseball. Well, the sad part of Dennis Eckersley, he's always going to be remembered for giving up the Kirk Gibson home run.
Yes.
But people forget that season, Eckersley was unhittable. Might have been, at that point, the greatest season that any reliever's ever had.
Right.
He was a Hall of Fame closer. And he was a really good starting pitcher for a good period of time as well with the Indians and the Red Sox. So this day, 1995, Dennis Eckersley picks up his 300th save. Think about all the numbers he got to, Tyler, as well, because he was a starting pitcher for a good amount of his career. Mm-hmm. He wasn't a closer like for his entire time in the majors. All right, I got one for you. We'll get to some racing.
All right.
1992. Who won the closest finish in the history of the Indy 500?
I'm going to go with Al Unser Jr.
And who'd he beat?
I can't remember who he beat.
The guy's last name is also the name of tires.
Pirelli?
Scott Goodyear.
Oh, Goodyear.
That was a good pull, though, on the tires. That wasn't bad. 1990, Edmonton Oilers won their fifth Stanley Cup in 7 seasons, beat the Boston Bruins in 5 games. I believe that's the only Stanley Cup they won without Wayne Gretzky.
Wow.
I believe. They won 4 with Gretzky and 1 without Gretzky. I think that was the one they won. Messier was there and Yari Curry, but Gretzky had been traded to L.A. by then. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the one. Okay. Let's see. I get another one in here. Oh, 1987. Indy 500 winner, 47 years old, won his record-tying 4th Indy title in a huge upset. He was a part-time driver at the time.
1987. Now, my Indy history is not as good as my NASCAR history. I'll go ahead and admit that. A little before my time on that one. You can go ahead and give me that.
Al Unser.
Okay.
Yep, Al Unser. Man, they got Unser family all over the state, too.
if you're an Unser, if you're an Andretti or a Foyt, you've had pretty good history at
I'll give you another racing one real quick. 1981.
Okay.
The Indy 500 ended in controversy. I do remember this. Mario Andretti finished second to Bobby Unser. Unser's declared, but Unser was then stripped of the victory, and Andretti was named the winner because Unser broke a rule during the slowdown part near the end of the race. Decision was later reversed, giving Unser then credit for the victory, but he was fined $40,000. You got all that?
That sounds like the end of the first Daytona 500 where Lee Petty wasn't declared the winner until 3 days later.
Lee Petty, whose dad was he?
That was Richard.
Yeah. Muhammad Ali on this day in history, 1976, 5th-round knockout of Richard Dunn in Munich, Germany. You're saying, who's Richard Dunn? I got no clue.
One of the victims.
Yeah. Yes. Real quick, you told me a great story about you watched. Was that a documentary you watched?
No, so there's a writer for ESPN.
Oh, it was a writer.
Wright Thompson. When I was in school, he came and spoke to us one day,
fantastic.
and gave us all a free copy of his book, and it's got a collection of great stories from his years as a writer. And one of my favorite ones from that is called Shadowboxing, and it's a story about this. It started out with this guy that was trying to get autographs or signatures from all of the opponents that Muhammad Ali had beaten. And there's some guys that had died and stuff like that he wasn't able to get to. But one guy that he couldn't find record of was a boxer that went by the name of Sweet Jimmy out of South Beach. And it's a wild story. I won't spoil it for you. You can Google it and find it. It's free to read online. But really compelling story. Kind of has an air of creepiness to it. But
an air of creepiness.
Yeah, it's really well told. And when I think of Muhammad Ali and all these fights that he won, that one's always one that kind of sticks out to me because it has such an interesting backstory to it. And it was written several years ago. And to my knowledge, I don't know if they ever ended up finding the guy or not.
There's a guy that I've tried to find all the guys who fought Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
I was watching. I didn't get to watch all of it, but I watched the bio series about Ali, like his early days when he became Muhammad Ali. And when you see that, you're like, nobody saw this coming. All of a sudden, he gets in a ring because he was a kid. He was kind of scuffling, trying to find his way in life. There in Louisville or whatever. All of a sudden, he got in a ring, and people went like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
This guy's got some skills.
And you and I talked about this a while back when he was ostracized from boxing for a couple years there in what would have been his prime years. How much more could he have accomplished if he'd been able to compete in those years instead of being on the sidelines?
Yeah, I've always said this. I wasn't alive when he was doing the things he was doing when he was younger, but you see the highlights of him fighting in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Here and you forget, this dude's a heavyweight.
Right.
And he's dancing and jabbing and bobbing and weaving, and other heavyweights are like, where the hell did this come from? I don't fight guys like this.
Right.
And you couldn't hit him. He was quick with his head, and I mean, his hands were fast. And then when he sat out and lost that time in his prime of his career, he came back. He's still Muhammad Ali, but he didn't have that same quickness. He still wasn't as light on his feet. He wasn't. I mean, he was still obviously fantastic.
Right.
But what he was like in the 60s, when he first hit the scene and his prime years, you watch some of those things like the highlights on YouTube or whatever, and you go, oh my God, this guy's jumping around like a welterweight.
I know. It's crazy.
It was unbelievable. All right, so on this day, he beat Richard Dunn. I bet you that was a fascinating 5-round fight.
Hey, he made it 5 rounds.
That's right. He probably did just for fun. They're probably in the corner with Angelo Dundee, and Dundee's going, you got to stretch this thing out to at least 5 rounds.
Half asleep, rough night the night before. All right, let him last 5 rounds.
Yeah, you come to the stool and you sit a beer next to the stool. You're like, I got this guy.
Yeah.
Mind if I swig on this between rounds? I don't really need water. All right, it's the greatest day in the history of the world, which is May 24th, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We'll get in here, Firehouse sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100, and we'll spin back getting you ready for baseball at 3:45, Gamecocks and the Wildcats right here in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. This is the halftime show right here on the Game. All right, time for our Firehouse Subtext of the hour, 803-404-6100. We got there, Tyler Head.
Yeah, getting asked, based on the latest projections, how many SEC teams are in the NCAA tournament. I believe, and let me count this up again, I think we actually have 11 in there as of right now, because you have, 5 teams that are projected to host. So 1, 2, 3, I know, counting on the air. That's great for live radio.
Oh,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, it looks like it's still 10 as of right now. But still, I mean, that ties the record. Again, there was conversation about maybe getting 11 in, depending on how things went this weekend. But nevertheless, I mean, the SEC is still the best conference in all of college baseball and looking like it once again this year.
So the 10, obviously, you've got Arkansas and A&M and Tennessee. Those 3 are obviously in along with Arkansas.
Yep.
Those 4. South Carolina's in. LSU's in. That's 6. Kentucky's in. That's 7. Georgia's in. That's 8.
Yeah, so I'll run through the
Mississippi
teams.
State, that's 9.
Yeah, Mississippi State's in there. Vandy's in there. Vandy's on the bubble going into
Not
this
anymore.
weekend. They've obviously worked themselves in. And them winning has actually helped out South Carolina because they've jumped
Vandy's
up.
17th in
They're ahead of
RPI.
South Carolina in the RPI now.
So, all right. Is there any, really, that's really cut and dry. Who would be the 11th right now? I want to turn that on. Just hit buttons. Oh, yeah. That's right. Corey, do us a favor. Yeah, turn up our guy
There
here.
we go.
That's on
There
us.
we go.
That was on us, Corey.
See, I know what I'm doing.
Let's not get crazy.
Y'all always yell at me about
Don't
turning the
get
mic
crazy
on.
about you
I'm
know what
not-
you're doing.
I'm not over there. And it's not Corey's fault. Nobody told him I was coming in.
Yeah, no, you know what? We didn't tell him. We were too busy doing other
I
stuff.
mean, but now with Tyler over here, it's totally the Tyler Head Sports experience.
I know, they
So-
can't even see Jay. Well, they can kind of see Jay on the
Why don't you
camera.
go?
Oh, I don't. Nobody needs to see me.
Well, they'll see you for 3 hours coming up.
No, well,
You don't have your
no.
makeup on yet. You don't have your
No,
pants
they
on.
won't
It's
see me
kind of
for 3
embarrassing.
hours. They'll see me for.
You're not
45 minutes.
even wearing a shirt with buttons. You have a
Yeah,
T-shirt on.
I haven't wearing
That's
a
very,
shirt.
Man.
that's very non-Jay.
Body paint.
It's
Wearing body paint.
It's Friday. I don't wear buttons on Friday. It's no button Friday.
Is that how you
Yeah.
roll? No button Friday.
No button Friday. Yeah.
So really,
Plus, it's also 90-something degrees outside.
That also has something
well,
to
yeah.
do
I'll
with
give
it.
you one real quick. Yesterday, Jeff Haley's son Luke. Shout out to Luke. Congratulations, graduated high school, and we went to his little
Man,
graduation
I wish I had
party.
done that.
Elijah, you didn't know that? Luke
No, I said I
graduated?
wish I had done that.
What, graduated high school?
Yeah.
Well, it's what happens to you when you don't. You end up here with us goofs. So Luke, we went over there yesterday because we got the invitation. So Elijah and I went, and what Elijah put on his card was so hilarious. I cannot repeat it on the air, but it was funny. So we go, and everybody else is there in shorts, and they got the T-shirts. They look like Jay right now. And we just came from here. So I got this stupid button-down shirt on. It's 92 degrees. Elijah's got radio inside air-conditioned clothes on. We look like who the hell are these guys? Yeah. Where'd they show up from? So, yeah, it was, and by the way, it was nice and toasty in your long-sleeve button-down shirt yesterday when
Sure.
it was like 90 degrees.
Sure.
Nats love you, too.
Yes.
They
There's
do.
that.
All right. So does Alabama get in?
Oh, Alabama's in.
I think Alabama's
That'll
in.
be 11
They've
then,
got
right?
it would be 11. I think they've got a really strong case.
I think they get in.
Yeah, they've got a good RPI. They've got a good strength of schedule. They're a lot like Carolina without having won.
Remember,
yet.
they were even coming into
Yeah.
that game. That
Yeah.
play-in game, they both almost were like,
Yeah.
you looked at those resumes.
Carolina winning, twice, and last night doesn't really hurt South Carolina in any capacity. Look, Carolina's in now. Again,
Well,
the difference is can Carolina still find a way to get to Sunday?
Here's the funny thing. You can beat Kentucky today and have a rematch with LSU coming up tomorrow
Yeah.
and avenge that loss from last night.
That was tough last night. It was a great game. I know fans want to, you always want something back. And I think Elijah's trying to find it, but I'm pretty sure that we actually predicted very Nostradamus-like the outcome on the air yesterday.
11-10.
I think we said 11-10 in 4 hours. I know.
Did you really?
I know Mrs. Phillips will vouch for me because before the game, I told her this is going to be an 11-10 game that goes 4 hours. And
what are the lotto numbers today?
I know, right?
Help us out, Jay.
Yeah, but it was a good. It was an entertaining game.
Well, that's the thing is a 4-hour game that's dull and has like pockets where nothing is happening. That's one thing. That game was constantly giving you something over 4 hours.
Well, it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
We were sitting again at Luke's graduation party when Messina hits the bomb, the grand slam. By the way, no money. Contest is over. And again, everybody's
no grand slams in the regular season.
I know.
Twice in
2 in 3 games.
It's unbelievable.
Crazy. But it was like I was just sitting there, And, we're talking. I'm like, you know what? That's great. It's good you got a 5-1 lead. This baby's long from over.
Yeah.
This thing, with the way the pitching staffs were being set up on both sides, 5-1 wasn't going to hold.
No.
But how about Messina?
He's on fire right now. And you hope that can continue next week.
Right.
Wherever you end up playing, you hope that can continue.
Tournament record, 14 RBIs.
It's unreal. And by the way, that was a howitzer.
Yeah.
That grand slam was a howitzer.
Yeah.
The minute that was hit, you're just like, that's out.
Yeah.
That might land at the state line. That thing was a bazooka. I mean, he's missing nothing.
No. He's on fire.
I mean, he hunts a pitch, he barrels it, and he's missing nothing right now.
That's why I'd like to see him win at least one more, just to kind of keep him in the flow as long as possible, so that by the time next Friday rolls around, again, wherever they may be playing, that he still feels that confidence.
Yeah, and look, last night, I get it. You should win that game. You're up by 3 runs late. You should slam the door on that thing. I get it. But again, tournament pitching, I mean, you're asking Veach, who doesn't have a whole lot of gas in the tank, can you get a few outs for us and win this thing? That's difficult, especially throwing 62 pitches 2 days before. But he told Kingston, he said, look, man, I can go. And right now, that point is your best option.
Yeah.
So you put him out there and hope he can close the door. Defensively, do you have to make those plays? Absolutely, you have to make those plays. Those plays have to be made.
That's the listen. Veach leaving a few changeups in a hittable zone is one thing. The defensive mental mistakes. That's what you learn as a ball player your whole life. You got to know the situation and what's up.
And those were fundamental mistakes.
Absolutely.
Those weren't.
Yeah, that's what you want back.
I was saying it the whole day. I remember my Little League coach, when you're playing the infield, put your glove on the ground.
Yeah.
It's easier to bring it up.
Well, I think about practice in baseball. That's why fungo practice, it's all situational, and it goes quickly. Like your coach, if you're a good coach.
How much did you hate situations?
Yeah, but it prepared you.
Yep. Yeah. Post-game show's next. Nice job, guys. We'll talk to you Tuesday. If you want to do stuff to your home, this time of year, a lot of people do. Well, you got to call the folks with the experience. 70 years of it at the Nest, 1331 Gadsden. You stop by. You can do that. And just walk in and say, hey, I kind of want to get something done with my home. The best thing to do, though, is to make an appointment. Call 803-978-2025. Tell the folks at the Nest what you're looking to do, whether it's new appliances in the kitchen, whether it's new showers, new tubs, new fixtures, new lighting, new plumbing, whatever you want to do to improve your home. Let them know what you want to do, what your goal is, and what your budget is, and they will make it happen for you. Again, the Nest, 70 years of experience, 803-978-2025, 1331 Gadsden in the Vista. They will take your dream and your goal, put it in your budget, make you a very happy person.